Hey guys, we're back for another Limitless Conversation Stripped. Stripped of the glitz, the glamour, the production of it all, which I love, but sometimes I just get things like in that moment and I just wanted to share. So I don't have nothing necessarily that I want to share. I know what I kind of want to talk about, but what I will say is I just came off of my walk. I just went for a walk this morning. And I always love going for walks because sometimes walks just remind you like how insignificant you are and like just how small you are in comparison to the world. And when I go for walks, it always like reminds me to just be so grateful. Like I'm so grateful to live somewhere where I can go for walks comfortably, where I can explore, where I get to see hear beautiful birds and see beautiful squirrels and like just like, always an opportunity to just be in such awe of the creation that is earth. And then it reminds me just of how much of earth I haven't even gotten to see yet, like the place that I haven't gotten to see, the things that I haven't gotten to do. And so yeah, last night I was like, I don't know. So it was like sometimes sometimes I can like feel. I guess it's me sharing some more of my spirituality. So I am a very like happy-go-lucky person, but I have moments, and so it's so funny that like I have these moments sometimes, and it's like I can feel the spirit, like spirits on me or something. Like if it's a spirit of darkness or whatever, and like sometimes I'll just lay and I'll meditate and I will literally feel it lift off of me, like literally physically feel it come off of me. And last night I had something on me. I don't know what it was or where it came from, what it was about. And I didn't do my normal routine of just like laying and letting it lift off of me. Something was just like write a gratitude list. Like you just need to get your mind back to being grateful. For me, I kind of know what triggers it. It's like, it's just needing to be grateful, man, because sometimes whenever I bring the podcast back, like how much I love doing the podcast, there's this pressure on the podcast. And I talked to my friend about this the other day. And there's this pressure on the podcast, and sorry, super funny, so y'all. There's this pressure on the podcast because it is what I want to do for like a living, for my career. And what I was telling her the other day is sometimes it's really tricky. What I learned from my journey in 2021 to 2022 is that it's really hard to create abundance. It's impossible to create abundance from lack. And what was happening in 2020 when I was just literally full-fledged on the dream, taking a leap of faith and stuff like that, is that I just was solely putting all the weight on this thing that I am creating for fun, like creating because I just genuinely want to do it. But now I want to be paid for it. And now that's creating this strain on it because now it feels like a machine. It feels like something I have to do versus something that I want to do. And so back in 2021, what year are we in? 2024 now? 2021 to 2022, when I was just it was really hard for me to create in a space of, I created with the joy, with the fun, with the expansion, but then when it came down to like posting it and things like that, I was looking for results and feedback and just people to validate things for me. And so I realized why I was in a funk, because it's like the podcast is exciting and I have so much fun filming the podcast. That's why I think that's why God's having me do the stripped series, because when I created the best from my content, like I used to do content like this all the time on Instagram. I used to go Instagram live, do reels every day, and it would just be off the dome. There would be no production to it. It would literally, God just told me like wake up every morning and prepare to film. And this was when I was also creating out of the space of like wanting this to be a thing for me, but I really wasn't thinking too much about it being successful as much as I was just enjoying the creation process of it all. And so God just only told me, get up every morning and prepare to film. Like at any moment you can get a spark, you get inspiration, and you just need to be ready to film, ready to go. Sometimes what's hard with the podcast is a lot of times what I talk about in the podcast, I'm having to bring myself back to the space of it because I normally got these epiphanies or had these huge moments like throughout the day or whatever. So bringing myself back into the space, it just makes it, sometimes it doesn't feel as flowing as it did in that moment. So that's what the whole Stripped series is about. But anyway, going back to the thing about my dream, right? This is the podcast. It really isn't about the podcast specifically. It's just about being able to help, being able to share this, the ways that God is transforming me, the ways that God is changing me. And a podcast is the way that I'm sharing it currently. And so right now it's the podcast, and I've watched other people in my life do it. It's so hard to enjoy something that you enjoy when you are wanting it to be the thing that funds your life. And it can be discouraging and it can take the fun away. It's why you hear artists say things like, oh, I loved rapping, I loved doing music, but then it became work, right? Whenever you take this thing that you're enjoying, that you're doing for fun and pleasure and joy, and you made it work, you've made it something that you want to live off of, it makes it difficult. This is why I've highly considered and why I started going back to work, so that it took the pressure off of the creation of this, so that I could just create with fun. With anything that you create as an artist, as someone who shares, you want feedback, you want recognition, it's just human as fuck to want that. Like, I'm not gonna I don't want it, or people don't want it. I mean, but one time I was in my car and I had my journal with me, I was out working, and God just reminded me of the purpose of the podcast. What is the purpose of this platform? What is the purpose of you doing this? And God has been telling me to just continue to remind myself of the purpose. Don't worry about what it's doing, because I didn't create this for it to necessarily do anything. I created the podcast just because I be having stuff I want to talk about. I be wanting to share, and it's really video diaries, video entries for me and stuff like that. It's really just me wanting to share what's on my mind, what's going on, and what I'm learning, and just things that I do all the time anyway. And the purpose of it is about just, even if one person sees it, So last night God had me do a gratitude list, just writing all these things that I was grateful for, and bringing myself back to being grateful. And I'm still working my way. I'm not totally back 100% yet, but I'm feeling closer and closer to it. And to just stop beating up on myself or stop being hard on my content and thinking that I'm doing something wrong. Sometimes it's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's just that the right people, it just hasn't been time yet. Maybe the right people haven't seen it, the right moment hasn't happened yet, things are being put in the arsenal, whatever. I remember when I was doing all of my content online before on Instagram, and God was just like, you're building up your content, you're building up something that is a catalog. And I noticed it because when people did find me, people did find my content, they would binge all of my content, because they would go through and every video. So they would just be binging all of the content. And God's like, yeah, so I'm telling you, this is what I'm telling you. And the thing that was so enjoyable for me with content at that time was I was just creating out of fun. I was just creating out of just purely channeling with God, purely just talking with God, purely just sharing and learning from God. This has been such a journey for me, and it's been a ride of a lifetime. In the most beautiful way though, the most beautiful way. I almost didn't post the first stripped one because I'm am I articulating how much I love this? I kept saying struggle, and I'm but I love this shit. This shit is not easy, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. To be growing, to be evolving, to be getting healthier and better all the time. It's so rewarding. It's so fulfilling. It's not that it's easy all the time. It's not that hard truths aren't said. It's not that things that are difficult to change don't come up. It's not that I don't cry through the whole process. It's not that I don't have any of those moments. It's just that it's always worth it. It's always worth it, and it's always such a delight to step back and see all the things that are growing, evolving, and changing. And that's what makes the journey of self-evolution so worth it. I talk about like a lot how I really resonate these days with my Scorpio side. So I have a lot of water in my chart, even though I am a fire sign, ton of water. So like I love to travel to the depths of emotions. Like I just love to understand why we think the way we think, why someone would have found satisfaction in that, why someone would do that, like what was the motive. Like these are things that just interest the shit out of me. And like these are things that I explore within myself. Like, why did I do that? Well, what was my motivation behind that? And why did I think that way? And is that connected to truth? You know, is that connected to the highest version? And you know, I think about things like what's happening. Do I want to say that? I think about why these things are so sticky. I think about things like, why do we see people who are in such a high position of power and influence and have all this money do some of the things that seem so creepy and odd and like, oof, you know, things that we as, I guess, regular people really frown down upon. And I'm like, well, why would anyone do that? And I'm just like pondering, like, why would someone want to mess with children? Like, I just don't understand it. And people who have access to women and can have whatever they want. And then I'm just like, because I love to just explore just what could be. And I'm just like, maybe that's what happens maybe that's why no one should have that much money, because when you can have anything, when you can buy anything, well, where do you go? We naturally just want more. Like, we are people who naturally just want, always achieving and wanting the next thing. So when you reach a level of so much financial wealth that you can have anything, for some people it's like, well, what's the next thing? And then you start to go to things that you aren't supposed to be desiring, wanting, or having, because that's the only thing that's kind of like what you can't buy. You can buy anything, you can have access to anything. And so the next thing for some people is like to go to what's forbidden. And okay, yeah, just like when we think about the remember the thing that happened, was it last year with the excursion to the Titanic? And it's just like, that's just what happens when you have so much access. And so me and my friend were talking about it. I don't know how I'm going here, but me and my friend were talking about it, and I'm kind of like, this is why I never really thought that there was a problem, or I never thought much about people having millions or billions or like it being an issue. But I'm like, this is why people shouldn't have that much money. You know what I mean? There's enough money in the world for everyone to live really well, really comfortably, really good. Like, there's enough. People could just pay their employees more. They don't need to take all of that money. They literally can't even spend in a lifetime all the money that they have. And you know, my friend was talking about, why don't they give back to the community more, you know, stuff like that. I said, you know what, ultimately, like, one person can't do all of it. Like, the one person who has the $1 billion can't be the answer to solving all of these things in the world. And it's really good to keep on, I was like really critically thinking about this stuff. I'm like, well, I hear you, right? Like, they should do more stuff. I said, but one person can only do but so much. They're just one person. I said, so I don't think that's realistic, but what I do think is that if they spread their wealth out and they gave more money out into the world and they paid their employees more could happen. Because while this person is a billionaire or whatever, they don't have a connection back to the community as much. They're not interested in donating to a college. They're not interested in starting a rec center. They're not interested in being in these kind of things because they're so far removed from just that part of life. I said, but if they started to pay people more, like if that person that's in that neighborhood, in those spaces, and they started to pay, sorry, I feel like something with my nose. they started to pay those people better salaries, right? Then that would mean that there were now more people with more money and that could have more access to doing more things. Because while that one person who's the billionaire is not passionate about it, someone on their team is passionate about the arts. Someone on their team is passionate about kids having a safe space. Someone on their team has a parent who went through domestic violence and wants to open up a shelter, wants to do something that educates people. There's someone in their, I don't know, they're like, I don't know what it's called, but the drop down, you know what I mean? Like there's the head, and then there's just all the legs and the spiders that go down to it. And there's someone in there that wants to do that stuff. And if there was someone that had enough money to do it, they probably would. So I don't even know how I got here, but I guess this is limitless, right? Yeah, it's just, that was just something I thought about the other day. Just, again, I wanted to understand the psyche, or like what could potentially, I mean, I don't know, I don't talk to these people, but I just like what I thought could be the reason why people go to perverted places, what I think about why they don't contribute more to society or whatever. You know, they have their causes, they have their things that they do. Every celebrity pretty much does. But just if you think about it, like if everyone, that person that's getting paid, I don't even know what minimum wage is anymore. Is it if it's the $7? It can't be. It can't be $7. It's gotta be like $15 at this point, right? I don't know. Whatever though. But if everyone's making 100,000, 200,000, there's enough money for people to be making significantly more if they pay their employees more. Just think about all the change that can happen in the world. I know I'm just kind of idealizing, but I don't know how. I think it's very realistic. I think that obviously things have to be changed in the energy of the world and the greed of the world and the desire. Like I like laughed at myself the other day because I was just thinking like, I really don't. I'm not motivated by money. I'm just not. Like, of course, I talked about how I want my podcast to be successful, but money is not a thing that motivates me. Like, I want to work the least amount, do the least amount of stuff, and like, I don't even care if I don't have a whole lot of excess of money these days. It's just, I'd be like, child, what's the least I could work to still survive? Like, I have dwindled my schedule down to 4 days a week, baby. I work 4 days a week. I am off 3 days. I want to work the least amount as possible. Because like, it's not about that for me, you know? I just like, I don't know, I just love to enjoy like relaxing in life. And I know with more money, I'm sure it will unlock more things that I'm interested in. That's what's cool too about the idea of people just getting paid more. It's just like, it would unlock so much. The other day I was thinking about how, I think in the same conversation, me and my friend were talking about like, what I'm trying to learn how to do is not put caps on things, because let's say I don't have this desire, because you never know. I talk about this in episode, I don't know what episode it'll be, 5 or 6, the one featuring Dania. But I talked about how like, until I started to unlock different parts of myself, certain things I couldn't even fathom or dream about or think about. And so it's kind of the same thing. It's like, you say that you don't want this, you say that you don't want that. Like, I was like, I'm not that into this, I'm not into that. And I'm like, well, I don't know, because if I had endless money, endless access, I might be interested in things that I don't even think I would be interested in now, because right now it's not even in my sphere of desires or wants. But who knows? You know, who knows? It's kind of like when you go on vacation and you never think you love where you live so much, and then you go somewhere else, you're like, dang, I want to live here. It's like you never thought about this desire, this potential, until you experienced it. So there's so many things to not cap yourself at, because you just don't know what potentially you might want to experience when you have access to it. So that's another thing. I guess it kind of ties to the beginning. I'm trying to put a bow on it. I guess it kind of ties to the beginning, because it's the idea of like us being so small in a world that's so big. And just don't cap yourself. I'm really working on that with me. Like, just saying it's something I'm not experiencing now, but I don't know. I don't want to say that I don't. I just think about this kind of like with fashion. I used to be like, I'm not like super into like having one of a kind pieces and like this kind of thing. And I'm like, I used to say that, and I'm like, Well, I don't know, because if it was convenient for me and easy for me, I probably would be into it. Like if I had a stylist or someone who could, because I just don't want to have to sit and wait for drops, like all that kind of stuff. I don't want to do that. I don't care enough to do that. But if I like had just like an influx of money where I could just like buy the limited edition thing at the high skyrocket price that they have, or I had a shopper who could find exclusive pieces for who did it for me, I probably would be into it. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't cap yourself and say that you're not interested in something that you could potentially be interested in if you just had more resources or had more access or whatever. So yeah. Yep. That's what's on my mind today. That's what's on my mind today. Post my walk. It was a really nice walk. I walked for like, I don't know, so I was out for probably like almost an hour and a half. It was really, really nice and really put me in just a good mood. So I just wanted to come and chat a bit and share my gratitude list that I did, and how just sometimes we have to return back to gratitude and returning back to possibilities and not capping ourselves and not closing ourselves off from things. I learned a lot about putting myself in a box and putting the people around me in a box, and how just harmful that is to ourselves, to our mental, to how far we can even dream, think, or fathom to want to ever attain. When you put yourself in a box of saying like, this is who I am, this is who you are, this is who we are, then you just don't allow space for your mind to even think about growing outside of that. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been into fashion. I've always been into like style and stuff like that. I literally, for God's sakes, had a whole YouTube channel called Where Fashion Matters. That literally was my thing. And then somewhere along the line, I don't know, like my best friend is also super into fashion. My best friend be fashion killer. She eats. She's so good at it. And I think somewhere in my mind, I was like, oh, she's the fashion friend. I'm never taking away the fact that I have style and fashionable, because that's for sure me. But I'm like, she's the fashion friend. I'm very stylish, but she's the fashion friend. And I put myself in a box, and I'm like, I don't want to be in this box. Like, I love fashion too, you know? And I think it's like, we just talked about doing content together, how cool it would be, because we're both very fashionable and we both express it a little bit differently. But even that is a box, because it's like, I can't put her in a box and say that she's the edgy one and I like more timeless classic fashion. It's like, sometimes like a little ed and sometimes like a little timeless classic. Does that make sense? It's like, so you can't put things in boxes because it's hurtful to you. I couldn't put myself in that box, because then I wouldn't be able to express the fact that I too am into fashion. I too am into styling. Same way, like, I'm very spiritual. Like, I can't put me in a box and say I'm a spiritual friend. You're not a spiritual friend. My friend is very highly spiritual too. So it's like, she's also spiritual. I can't put her in that box and imagine like she feels like she can't be the spiritual friend because I'm the spiritual friend. Like, no. Does this make sense? I don't know. It's kind of like very rambly, but this is just my inner thoughts. This is literally stripped of anything, any script, any outline. Like, literally, this is like the things that I think about in my mind, and that's what I'm going to share. It's like, what the fuck happens in my mind? I have so many theories about things. I have so many things that I think about all the time, the workings of life. I don't know. I just have such a curiosity about these things. But one thing I know 1,000% is that no matter what's happening in the world, this is something that has, we all have our lane. I'm going to something else now, you guys. We all have our lane to play in the world. And I've like sat and thought about, like, if people ask me, well, what do you think about this and what do you think about that? I've just started to become confident in saying there's certain things that I'm not interested in, because it's just not part of, it has not yet been revealed to me that that's what I am supposed to be interested in or doing in the world. If something ever out here and it piques my interest, I definitely will be into exploring it. But we all have something that we're supposed to do in the world. And I say that to say that ultimately, if it's something that's not your lane or your space, just know that all things always God is in and working through. No matter what happens in the world, no matter what goes on, I think we are feeling uneasy in the world, right? Sometimes, like at this time, about what's to come, what's going to happen. what I can say, what God has told me, and what I will share that has brought me comfort is that ultimately I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this is going to play out. But what I ultimately know is that everything is moving towards a higher timeline and a higher vibrating earth where we really are operating better. And that does mean that some things will have to break down, that things will have to come to light. Light has to be shined down on some of these things and some of the ways that things have been corrupt and not right and operating in the darkness and operating in fear. But I know that ultimately God is the highest power, and that light is always the highest power, and light is just happening to be shined in some dark corners that is now forcing darkness to kind of scram, and you just have to trust God in these times. You just, whatever you believe in, call it God, Yahweh, Allah, Source, Universe, doesn't really matter. Whatever term you give, the higher, the knowing and the understanding that there is a higher purpose that we get access to on a scale of that we can obtain it and that we can retain it. But like, we're these little small things, and God is just like all of the things. You know what I mean? You're like 0.000000001% of it. So it's like, you have access to some things, but the biggest picture, whatever you believe in, just know that everything's always working out for the betterment. Everything's always working out to restore balance, peace, love, joy, authenticity. And yeah. Anything else that I want to, I don't know, share my opinion on? I'm trying to keep my opinions to myself on stuff because I can't justify my opinion to someone else. I go off of feeling, my boy. I go off of what I why am I this way? I go off of genuinely what I feel led to, what God leads me to. There's not always justification. There's not always research to back it. I'm so sorry to tell you. I can only tell you like what feels good in my spirit, what brings me comfort, what helps me sleep easy at night. So yeah, I think that's it for today. I like these. These are fun. I kind of like want to do a lot of these. All right. Well, I love you guys, and I'm not gonna say I'm being limitless today. I don't really. That's just a wrap on the chit chat today. So I love y'all. Y'all like these? These are literally like journal entries, intrusive thoughts of Sean. But my brain thinks, child. All right. Love y'all. Bye.